Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Journey to Greatness, day 276 of 365 with David McDonald, the GOAT. What a good feeling to be back to life, back to reality. Hope everybody's having a fantastic week so far. I'm ready to get into my meditation. All right, everyone. I will see you in 15 minutes. Good morning, Liz. Alrighty, everybody, welcome back. Hey, Chi, how's it going, brother? Long time no see. Good morning. Miss Miner, good morning. Good morning. All right, my friends. So we just finished our meditation routine. I've been away from our book for the last few days here, but that's all right. Because we're back. So we will continue reading the Bible. And I will see you guys. I will see you all on the other side. Wait, what? All right. So the last time that we got together here, we had to I didn't have a journal because I had finished my other journal already. I still have not purchased a new journal. For like I said, I did go out of town. So I need to go purchase a new journal today. So I'll go ahead and do that later on. But long story short, we'll just continue our reading routine. If you are not in your reading routine, please feel free to you know move to your journal next. In the journal, I usually like to write about what I'm most grateful for, and in the morning, that is waking up and being in godly, physical, spiritual, mental health, and pretty much a number of other things. So, with that being said, if you have any questions on what to write about, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you all on the other side. All right. Holy smoke. So we got a bunch of stuff happening here. Like a lot of stuff happening in the book. And man, there's a lot going on right now. So the call of Abram. So Abram, um, now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you, and I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. So Abram goes to Sarai in Egypt. There was a famine in the land, so Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there, so to live there, for famine was severe in the land. When he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Arai, I know that you are a beautiful woman, and that the people in Egypt will, pretty much want to have you, and so therefore I will say that you're my sister. So the Pharaoh in Harai allows him in his house, but then is upset with Abram because his wife is his wife and not his sister, and he finds out. So Abraham, so Abram eventually turns into Abraham, is known as Abraham, and Lot is his nephew, if I'm not mistaken. So Abram went up from Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him into Negeb. Now Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver and in gold, and he journeyed on from Negeb as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning between Bethel and Ai, to the place where he had made an altar at the first. And there Abram called upon the name of the Lord, and Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, so that the land could not support both of them dwelling together. So they then separated. Now the men of Sodom were wicked, great sinners against the Lord. So we went over this last, pretty much Abram and Lot said, let there be no strife between you and I, because we are brother. We are kinsmen. Sodom was a wicked place, where a lot of men, pretty much were wicked, right? And so Lot chose for himself the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east. Thus they separated from each other, which was Abram and Lot. Abram settled in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled among the cities of the valley and moved his tent as far as Sodom. So Sodom was a city that was known, like I said, for having and housing wicked men. And later on, it actually gets destroyed by the Lord for that reason. The Lord said to Abram, after Lot had separated from him, lift up your eyes and look for the place where you are, northward and southward, and eastward and westward. For all the land that you will see, I will give to you and to your offspring forever. So at this point, Abram is starting to become designated as a prophet. And so fast forwarding a little bit, in the days of the Amraphel king of Shinar, Arioch king of Elasar, Shedolamar king of Elam, and Tidal king of Goim, these kings made war with Bera king of Sodom. Okay, so there's that name Sodom again. Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, uh, Shemeber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zor, which is actually where Abram ends up. Abram eventually turns into Abraham. That's where Abraham eventually ends up in the next couple stories here. And all of these joined forces in the valley of Siddim. That is the Salt Sea. 12 years they had served as Chedorlaomer, but in the 13th year they rebelled. In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with him came and defeated Rephaim in Ashoteroth, Karnaim, and Zuim in Ham, the Emim in Sheveh, Kiriathaim, and the Heroites in the hill country of Seir as far as El Paran, on the border of the wilderness. Then they turned back and came to En Misfat, that is Kadesh, and defeated all the country of Amalekites, and also Amorites, who were dwelling in the Hazazon Tamar. What just happened? I mean, holy smokes! You see, like, the complexity of this. This is like pretty much a big deal. I'm trying to like get through all of this, but it's so much, like. But we'll just keep going. Then the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zor, went out and they joined battle in the valley of Siddim. So pretty much you have a really big war between a lot of different towns. Okay. Now the valley of Siddim was full of bitumen pits, and as the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some fell into them, and the rest fled in the hill country. So the enemy took all the possessions of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their provisions and went their way. They also took Lot, the son of Abram's brother, which is his nephew, who was dwelling in Sodom, and his possessions, and went their way. Then one who had escaped came and told Abram, the Hebrew, who was living by the oaks of Mamre, and the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and of Aner. These were allies of Abram. When Abram heard that his kinsman had been taken captive, he led forth his trained men, born in his house, 318 of them, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. And he divided his forces against them by night, he and his servants, and defeated them and pursued them to Hobah, north of Damascus. Then he brought back all the possessions, and also brought back his kinsman Lot with his possessions, and the women and the people. So Abram in this section of Genesis 14:1 goes and saves Lot after Sodom is taken over by the enemies of the Jordan Valley, not the Jordan Valley, of the from the war that took place of all the different kings in the surrounding areas in the Jordan Valley. So Abram blessed Melchizedek after his return from the defeat of Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with him. The king of Sodom went out to meet him, and at the valley of Sheveh. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was a priest, God Most High, and he blessed him and said, "Blessed be Abram by God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand." And Abram gave him his tenth gave him a tenth of everything. And the king of Sodom said to Abram, give me the persons, but take the goods for yourself. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted my hand to the Lord Most High, possessor of the heaven and earth, that I would not take a thread or a sandal strap or anything that is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich. I will take nothing, but what the young men have eaten, and share of the men who went with me. Let Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre take their share. God's covenant with Abram. So this is the time when God promises Abram essentially that he will be one of the chosen ones. He says, know for certain that your offsprings will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and will be servants there, and they will be afflicted for 400 years. 1 second. So then he says, but I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterward they will become out. They shall come out with great possessions. As for you, you shall go up to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried in good old age, and they shall come back. They should come back. They should come back here in the fourth generation, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. So, pretty much, this is a time when God gives his covenant or his promise to Abraham that any child that he births, or any child that comes to this world in his image, will be blessed forever. So Sarai and Hagar, Abraham's wife, had borne him no children. She had a female Egyptian servant whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said to Abram, behold, now the Lord has prevented me from bearing children. Go in to my servant. It may be that I shall obtain children by her. And Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. So after Abram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan, Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar the Egyptian, her servant, and gave her to her husband Abram as a wife. So Abram's original wife, Sarai, wasn't able to have children. So then she essentially gave Abram, her husband, her slave, or her servant, Egyptian servant. And from there, Abram had a child with her. So when Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am God Almighty. Walk before me and be blameless, that I may have. Pause. Let me take a couple steps back. But there was conflict, obviously with Sarai and Hagar. So we're starting to see some drama here in the Genesis 15:16. So after Sarai, Abram's wife, gives Hagar, Sarai's servant, to her husband to have a kid, because Sarai has not been blessed to have a kid. Hagar, and he went into Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, she looked with contempt on her mistress, Sarai, that is, right? Starts looking differently at Hagar. And Sarai said to Abram, may the wrong done to me be on you. I gave my servant to you, to your embrace, and when she saw she had conceived, she looked on me with contempt. May the Lord judge between you and me. But Abram said to Sarai, behold, your servant is in your power. Do to her as you please. Then Sarai dealt harshly with her, and she fled from her. The angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the wilderness. the spring on the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, servant of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going? She said, I am fleeing from my mistress Sarai. The angel of the Lord said to her, return to your mistress and submit to her. The angel of the Lord also said to her, I will surely multiply your offspring, so that they cannot be numbered for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said to her, behold, you are pregnant, and shall bear a son. You shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has listened to your affliction. He shall be a wild donkey of a man, his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he shall dwell over against all his kinsmen. So she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her. You are a God of seeing. For she said, truly, here I have seen him who looks after me. Therefore, the well was called Beer Lahai Roy. It lies between Kadesh and Bered. So the Lord comes to Hagar, which is Sarai's servant, right? Who just bore Sarai's husband Abram's child, or is getting ready to. And Sarai is then looked upon with discontent because Hagar bore the child of her husband. So Sarai wickedly lashes out against her. Hagar leaves where they are in the land of Canaan, and then the Lord reaches out to Hagar and says, hey, you are going to bear a son. His name's going to be Ishmael. And when you bear that son, he will then have power and reign over multiple cities, and you shall have more children. This is so wild. Okay, so Abraham in the covenant of circumcision. So when Abraham was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to, when Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am God Almighty. Walk before me and be blameless, that I make my covenant between me and you and may multiply you greatly. Then Abram fell on his face, and God said to him, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be the father of multitude of nations. No longer shall your name be Abram, but your name shall be Abraham. For I have made you the father of multitude of nations. I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make you into nations, and kings shall come from you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your offspring after you throughout their generations for everlasting covenant, to be God to you and to your offspring after you. And I will give to you and your offspring after you the land of your sojournings, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. So essentially, when God comes to Abram, he then renames him and says, you are now Abraham, because you're essentially going to be following me. So you're now one of my servants, right? Essentially, you're serving for the greater purpose of the Lord. And every person or every son that will come after you will reign as kings and will control nations. And all the lands that you have sojourned, or you have went through and conquered and did these things, or your offspring will take that benefit of all the work that you have done. And so that was God's covenant to Abraham. He has now become a chosen one. So both he who is born in your house and he who is bought with your money shall surely be circumcised. Any uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin shall be cut from his people. He has broken my covenant. So Isaac's birth promised. And God said to Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, you shall not call her Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. I will bless her, and moreover, I will give you a son by her. I will bless her, and she shall become nations. She shall become nations. Kings of people shall come from her. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed and said to himself, shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? Shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child? And Abraham said to God, on that Ishmael might live before you. God said, "No, but Sarah, your wife, shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac." So, a lot of the characters in the Bible during this time where they lived to be like over 500 years old, and um, so the idea of living until 90 or living into 100 wasn't super uncommon because people were living to well over 500 years old. So it was a totally different, mindset or perspective. So Sarai, which is the same person who discarded Hagar, which is her Egyptian servant that had the child by her husband, now named Abraham, is now starting to be referred to as Sarah. And the Lord appeared to him by the oaks of Mamre. As he sat at the door of his tent in the heat of the day, he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, 3 men were standing in front of him. When he saw, he ran from the tent door to meet them and bowed himself to the earth and said, "O Lord, if I have found favor in your sight, do not pass by your servant. Let a little water be brought and wash your feet and rest yourselves under the tree while I bring a morsel of bread, that you may refresh yourselves, and after that you may pass on, since you have come to your servant." So they said, "Do as you have said." And Abraham went quickly into the tent, and Sarah said, "Quick, 3 seahs of fine flours, knead it and make cakes." And Abraham ran to the herd and took a calf, tender and good, and gave it to a young man who prepared it quickly. Then he took curds and milk and calf that had prepared and set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree while they ate. And there's so much going on. So they said to him, "Where is Sarah, your wife?" And he said, "She is in the tent." The Lord said, "I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, shall have a son." So the relevancy in all of this is that Sarah or Sarai, in the past, in one section ago, was not able to have a son, but now she was blessed as the Lord made his covenant with Abraham, said, "Hey, I'm going to give your wife a son." And so now Sarah was getting ready to bear a son. In a year come time, the Lord, left Abraham and his wife Sarah in Canaan. Abraham, and Sarah were old, advanced in years. The way of a woman had ceased to be with Sarah. So Sarah laughed to herself, saying, "After I am worn out and my Lord is old, shall I have pleasure?" The Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, shall I indeed bear a child now that I am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? In the appointed time I will return to you about this time next year, and Sarah will have a son." But Sarah denied it, saying, "I did not laugh, for she was afraid." He said, "No, but you did laugh." Then the men set out from there, and they looked down toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to set on their way. The Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him? For I have chosen him, that he command his children and his household after him, to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring Abraham what he has promised him." Then the Lord said, "Because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and their sin is very grave," so like we said earlier, Sodom was a very grave city of sin, "I will go down and see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry that has come to me, and if not, I will know." So in other words, he's getting ready to go down to Sodom and punish them. Man, I could go on forever here, but it's 6:15, because I this was almost like a week of reading, or more than a week. So I will have to finish this. We have like 4 pages left, but hopefully I'm painting the picture clear enough so that everybody can so everybody can follow what is going on here. I mean, I know there's a lot of names, I know there's a lot of things happening, but it's a it's a I don't, again, I feel like the relevancy of all of the stories are going to come as we read on. So it's a matter of just being patient in time and trying to understand how all these people are playing a key role in like what is getting ready to happen. But from what I can see so far, it's for everyone who has become a servant of the Lord. They are blessed with nations, which is an interesting, ideology. And therefore, they're untouchable, which is a really interesting concept. And scaled to that, I feel that we are inherently blessed with the idea, or excuse me, we are blessed. We all, every single person on this earth, whether you believe in whatever, whichever religion, or whether you believe in God or not, you are blessed with the power that lives within you. I believe that power comes as an extension of God. For he lives within us, right? And so therefore we have ultimate power to create a reality, using our minds and our faith to create a reality only imaginable by us. Now, the thing about believing in the Lord, which is interesting here, is I believe that we have zero limitations. I believe that we can never fail. We don't ever take losses. And I think that primarily is driven by the idea that everything is a learning lesson. And not only is everything a learning lesson, but we are ultimately protected by God or by the universal energy or spirit, right? And so because that is reality, I think that that's relatable to this story of Abraham, because he was protected. And as we go through the next 5 or 6 pages to explain tomorrow, and continue the story of Abraham and kind of what's going on, this kind of drama that we're seeing, you will see later on that he is indeed protected, for he is captured again here in the next couple pages, and then he is relinquished again because God has said he is the chosen one. And so we'll get into that. We will get into that tomorrow, and we will continue to read, and I will do my best to like I said, to explain this. So with that being said, feel free to say after me. We're going to read This is my life. I am aware. I take full responsibility for my reality and thoughts. I recognize I have the power to manifest the best possible life, a life of wealth, love, and peace. I truly believe I have zero limitations. I trust my instincts, God, and universe. I am ready to transcend. I have arrived, and so it is. All right, my friends. Happy Tuesday. I hope you all have the best day of your lives. We're back. Everybody who jumped on the messenger board, good morning. Good morning. Thank you for the love and support constantly. I appreciate you. And everybody who's at home watching behind the camera, thank you for your love and support constantly. As I mentioned before, I hope you all have the best day of your life. I will see you tomorrow for day 277 of 365 with David McDonald, the GOAT, on the journey to greatness. And I look forward to continuing our journey together. Peace.